A leaked government letter, a letter from government lawyers, has stated that no final policy decision has yet been taken on requiring the passes in nightclubs, despite the Prime Minister repeatedly saying that proof of a full jab and no, a lateral flow test or others won't be acceptable, will be a condition of entry for nightclubs and other large venues by the end of September. Let's talk to Michael Kill right now. He's Chief Executive of the Nighttime Industries Association. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning.
It is extraordinary, this letter that's been leaked. It's a letter written on behalf of the Health Secretary Sajid Javid by the government legal department, and it stated that no final policy decision has yet been taken in relation to vaccine passports, that any further announcements will be made in due course. But it did also rather crucially point out that there were a few issues in terms of vaccine passports. Given the evidence now, we've had official data from around the world and certainly here in the UK that having been double jabbed yourself, although it protects you from the likelihood of hospitalisation or death, it doesn't necessarily protect you from passing the virus on. And therefore, actually, there was no purpose, no point to vaccine passports. Do you think the idea has been killed off?
I'd love to say it has, and I think almost a month or so ago we worked very closely with many parts of the industry to push back heavily on Michael Gove's report. It came back up, as you know, the U-turn came on Freedom Day, so this letter has given some sort of confidence that they're seeing clearly, but I think we've still got a very big battle ahead. There are, it's ludicrous, the disparity between ministers talking within the press and that communication, which is just clearly very indifferent.
Yeah, indeed, it does seem to be that way. Well, I mean, there has been a big backlash against vaccine passports. I know, people who follow me on Twitter know I'm part of a campaign to try and stop this from happening. Consider it to be, not only utterly pointless, it serves no purpose whatsoever, it won't save a single person's life, but also just a massively authoritarian and illiberal and morally unjustifiable policy that will basically divide us rather than unite us, and also just another way of us not going back to normal life. I was at it was a nightclub last night in southwest London. I was at a gig with my daughter, barely anyone wearing a mask. We had to provide either a vaccine passport or a lateral flow test proof. Lateral flow test proof, frankly, is not even worth having. Frankly, it's an absolute load of nonsense. You don't even need to do the test to input a negative result to get the email back from the NHS. Really, what an absolute joke and waste of time that is. But everyone was having a great time. A load of young people standing together, laughing, singing, dancing, a live performance. God, it was wonderful. I was definitely the oldest person in the room by a long way. It was absolutely wonderful. But that's going to be killed off, isn't it? If there is a requirement for people to show proof of jabs, because not just people who haven't been double jabbed, people who, like me, who have been, who just say, I will not show proof of my medical records to go about my ordinary daily life.
Absolutely, and the NTIA has been absolutely against COVID passports since the off. We have protested heavily. We've written to ministers. We've protested within ministerial meetings. So, from our perspective, we're absolutely in support of yourself, Julia, and your position, and I have been watching you on Twitter without a doubt. And I think the key thing is we need to push back heavily. It will have a negative impact on trade. The feedback we've got from many operators is it will, cull their trade post the end of September, and we're seeing potentially up to a 40% drop off in trade. We're seeing ticket sales go through the floor. We're seeing bookings challenging. At the moment, we're in a honeymoon period, but I really don't understand the government's thinking, because there are so many holes in this policy. It's ridiculous. And, it's ludicrous to see that there is disparity amongst the ranks, but also we're moving into a position where we need to know the confidence, not only for staffing and for customers, is becoming affected.
Indeed. That's the thing. Last night at the concert, they had to have, 3 or 4 people outside checking people's, data and things. And, that's a big venue. Of course, they're going to have security staff to be able to do that. But again, doing it outdoors. There's no point doing it indoors. People have already got inside the door if you consider people to be such a risk without it. So with the practicalities, the cost to many venues, particularly small pubs and restaurants. Now, they said, it won't happen. It'll only be in large venues. It'll only be in nightclubs. But we've seen very, very clearly there is a very, very steep, slippery slope when it comes to these authoritarian and liberal measures, haven't we? So a lot of people are very concerned about that. But again, the main argument is we now know that contrary to Michael Gove saying if you don't get vaccinated, you're selfish because you're a risk to other people, we now know that you can be vaccinated, you can still get COVID, you can have the same viral load, and you can pass it on to other people. So people thinking, but I've got a vaccine passport, I'm completely safe and I'm not at risk to other people, that actually will give people a false sense of security.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we've been viciously sort of pushing back on this, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, the COVID passport really does not have any value. The big concern we have for an industry is not only the uncertainty, staffing is a big issue. I mean, the HR bill, if this comes in and is mandated, is going to be phenomenal because people will just see it as discriminatory. We're already having issues on the front doors with things like lateral flow tests. This moving into a mandated position is going to be devastating for the sector, and we just cannot tolerate it. We need to push back hard, and if necessary, challenge it in the courts.
Yeah, and understand there are challenges ahead. And again, the courts have not been kind on these issues in this country. I mean, countries like Spain, actually, we've seen some great court decisions where, getting rid of a lot of this stuff. France, and I was just in France on a holiday. I mean, vaccine passports everywhere you ask, you're asked for your proof. If you run a bar or a restaurant or a cafe in France and you have somebody there who hasn't got a vaccine passport, they've been able to show you, you face a year in jail. Now, if they brought in something like that, a lot of venues would have no choice. So what can ordinary people do? People who want the life, they want their old lives back. They want life to get back to normal. A lot of the people I think who support these measures, they've never been to a nightclub in their lives. They don't go to restaurants or bars. They don't do anything. They stay, and if they want to stay behind their sofa for the rest of their lives, fine, do that. But don't impinge on everyone else's freedoms. Is my view on that. As my regular listeners will know. What can we do? Because it's all very well people saying if this is brought in to the landlords of these and venue owners, you shouldn't do this because you'll lose your license, you'll lose your livelihood. If we boycott venues, won't that hurt you more? What can we do to stop them coming in, and if they come in, to get rid of them as soon as possible? What do you want from us?
The biggest challenge here, I mean, we're challenging at a government level, but the biggest thing that can happen here is the members of the public that disagree with this sort of policy and operators. I mean, we have a really big campaign at the moment under Email Your MP, which is just a matter of logging onto our website and sending a letter to your constituent MP. The more MPs that stand up, walk into the government offices and cabinet that tell the Prime Minister and his colleagues that this is not a workable practice, both publicly or from an industry perspective, the more people will understand that this can't move forward. Yeah. And the vote that's going to come in, if it comes in the Commons, the work we're doing with regard to Labour, Lib Dems, CRG, etc., all culminating in the pushback to ensure that the Commons vote doesn't work in favour of the government. Yeah,
absolutely. Michael Kill, you're doing fantastic work for your industry, Chief Executive of the Nighttime Industries Association. Thank you.